Everyone talks about competition, competition, competition. Very few people talk about collaboration. So if I look at phones for you, they were they regarded their networks as people they should be making as much money out of as possible, which is great, but is short term.
Growth doesn't break businesses, sloppy and slow decisions do. Enter Jason Soars, the Fractional FD. He helps owner-led teams swap chaos for cadence, and if busy but broke sounds familiar to you, this conversation is your reset. Enjoy. Jason, welcome to the Direct at First show. After a few attempts, we've got you over. Thanks for coming over to Preston, mate.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Glad to be here.
So what I want to do is I want to start back when you was about 19.
Yep.
It's about 10 years ago.
A few, but 4 or 5 more.
Now at 19 you was investing millions and millions of pounds of other businesses' money, all on your own.
So yeah, interesting story. So I'm from Reading, and back in the 90s, Reading was a real boom town. It was one of those places that had virtually zero unemployment. I was a student, went away to university, came back and managed to get a job working in a corporate treasury department for a large PLC. And the idea was I would be there assisting my boss, who was the corporate treasurer, who was investing that business's money, buying foreign currency, all those sorts of things. Been there a month, she was going on holiday, she arranged for a replacement to come down who was going to cover for her, taught him, and she said, while I'm teaching him, I'll teach you. Brilliant. Turn up on the Monday, she's gone. This is the days before you could get in touch with people when they're on holiday. Mm-hmm. You just couldn't in the 80s. His mother had died and he basically wasn't turning up. And suddenly I'm in this business and I'm the only person who understands how to do it.
Okay.
So at 19, I would go to work every day and effectively invest that business's money on the money markets, buy their foreign currency, all those sorts of stuff. You should have seen my boss's face when she got back and found out that's what had been happening. She was a tad worried, but yeah, it was all fine. It was all good.
How did it go?
It went well. It was interesting and a bit stressful. Mm-hmm. You know, I made sure I was double and triple checking everything I was doing. But fortunately, she had taught me and I did understand what I had to get up to. But yeah, it was an interesting few weeks, shall we say.
And how long was you doing that for?
Did that summer job for 2 summer holidays, because this is my holiday.
It was a summer job?
I was a temp summer job. I was doing my degree full time, and this is what I did that in the summer.
Okay.
So I wasn't even a full-time employee. You know, literally I've been there a month, and suddenly I was thrust into this situation.
So we went from there to Anderson's,
yep.
to Phones for You,
yep.
to now
yep.
running as a very successful Fractional FD.
Yep.
Can you fill in the blanks there for us?
Yeah, so I was at university doing a business studies degree and looking for the next thing to do, and decided I'd do accountancy. Everyone had told me that accountancy was one of the best sort of career paths because it gave you lots of options. And I ended up at Anderson's, one of the more aggressive American firms, because they're a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. Tell my second interview as an example of why they're a good fit. So the night before at university had been I think it was a Shaz and Trace party. So we decided to go all dolled up in drag. And the girls in the flat made me up, put me in a skirt, all that kind of stuff. They also put nail varnish on me. Now, unbeknown to me, you can't just take nail varnish off. I didn't know this. Why the hell would I have known this? Get to the interview, get up the next morning, got nail varnish, so take off, but you can't get it on, there's bits around the bottom. So I spent my entire second interview with my hands on the table like this, trying to hopefully see that the partner wouldn't see I had nail varnish on. And eventually they went like that, and he went, is that nail varnish on your fingers? And I sort of sat there thinking, what do I do? I thought, you've just got to tell the truth. I went, yeah, this is what's happened. I couldn't get it off the sweat. He just sort of laughed, you know. He actually offered me the job in the room. And I thought, you know, this is the right fit for me. So I joined Anderson's, did audit for a bit, which wasn't a good fit, and then got headhunted to go and do their corporate restructuring work, and spent 12, 13 years doing big ticket insolvencies, corporate advisory, corporate restructuring work with them.
And what type of size deals were you working on back then?
It varied. I mean, from probably selling businesses for, say, £1 million to selling businesses for 10, 15, 20, 30 million quid.
How many years ago was that?
This would have been the 90s and the early 2000s.
So it must have been a bit akin to the Wild West back then.
Yes, yes. Met with one of my partners, we see him for coffee reasonably. I referred to it as the good old days, but Jason, those were the good old days. Those were the bad old days. The Insolvency Act 86 had been written. Nobody really understood it. It was the things we were getting up to. You look back on and just think, oh dear.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was good times. I learned a great deal. I got a lot of responsibility very young as a result of that. Because, you know, particularly in the early 90s, there was a ridiculous amount of work. You know, all the firms were really busy. The phone was constantly ringing. So as a result, junior staff got more responsibility than they would do, certainly would do nowadays. But it was a great place to learn, albeit sometimes a bit of a baptism of fire. It really was.
Always the best way, though, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the job of insolvency, I mean, you'll know yourself, is you're right at the coalface. It's the sharp end of commerciality when, if you don't make the right decisions, give the right advice, make the right, you know, right choices, businesses go bust, people lose their job.
Yeah.
That's about as kind of as sharp end of it as it gets, frankly, because there's real consequences to what you do and how you act. Yeah, so that was an interesting time.
And then a move over to phones for you?
Yeah, well, Addison's went bust. You asked me your question you might prep for is about things I've learnt. Reputation is everything. I was at Addison's when it went under in the early 2000s, and it went from a business that had 80,000 employees as one of the top 6 accounts firms in the world with a stellar reputation to being closed in under 9 months through one audit opinion in Houston. It fell apart around me like I can't imagine. It was a frightening time, really, to be part of an organisation, to see a great organisation like that just disappear over one single office and one single client, but it did. And we were bought by Ernst & Young, and they're a great firm, but they're very different to Anderson's. By the time I left Anderson's, I had 3 powers of attorneys in my briefcase from the partners, and I could sell businesses on my own. Ernst & Young dropped my cheque signing limit to £1,000. They were they're a different type of organisation, and it just wasn't for me.
How long did it take you to find that out?
If I'm honest, I think I knew within a month, and it took me another few months to actually leave. But, you know, they're a great firm. Just, I was used to a different way of operating. And frankly, it was time. So.
And then you moved up. What was Phones for You like?
Right, how should I put this? So, Phones for You, when I turned up, was turning over, I think, 250, 300 million quid. Its head office was located above a motorcycle dealership in Newcastle, under Lyme in Stoke. And you got coffees from a burger van with the bloke who looked like Bob Carroll-G's.
Yeah.
So John Caldwell, fair play to the guy, had done a phenomenal job of growing that business very, very quickly. But everything was lagging behind. It literally, when I turned up, that business was losing 50 million quid a year. It had been funded by another part of the group that had just been sold, and within about 2 months of being there, the new chief exec had a phone call with O2 that said there's 3 people in this marketplace currently, which was us, Carphone Warehouse, and the third one I can't remember the name of anymore. He said there'll only be 2 within a year, and we don't think you'll be one of them. So I'd come from a restructuring background to go to a big firm to discover I was now on a massive restructuring project. And it was interesting. I had a good time, and we turned that business around.
Did you work closely with John Caldwell?
I didn't work with John particularly, no. He put a management team into Phones for You then, and I worked very closely with that management team. I met John a few times, but I didn't work one-on-one with him. He'd sold a single point by that stage and was less involved. I worked with his FD sidekick, a guy called Craig Bennett, who was John is one everyone's heard of. John is the flamboyant leader, the front man, the salesman, all of those things. Craig was the Rottweiler, the pit bull, who made it all work and made sure that money was made. Now I worked more with him because that's just what I do.
I mean, that's a fairly, and I will get on to the, your most current role, but that's quite a varied start in business life.
Yep.
What were the key lessons before you decided to jump and do your own thing? Aside from reputation is everything, what were the key lessons that you picked up through those lily pads you were jumping on.
So I think the key lesson that I took was that collaboration is better than competition.
Okay.
Which is an interesting one, because everyone talks about competition. Very few people talk about collaboration. So if I look at phones for you, they were they regarded their networks as people they should be making as much money out of as possible, which is great, but is short term. Actually, they were in partnership with them and needed to collaborate with them. And that's one of the reasons the phones who ended up struggling towards the end. Mm-hmm. I saw that quite a bit in the larger insolvencies that I did at Anderson's. So there's a business called Transtech. I was IPO for a while. Large automotive manufacturer. It supplied cylinder heads to Ford for the Ford Explorer, one of their biggest selling cars in the world. They set up a factory in Northern Ireland. They had all sorts of production issues. Ford hit them with penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty over a period of about 2 years. Rightly, and they were contractually entitled to do so, but it pulled the business down because they couldn't afford to pay all of this. Then it went into insolvency. Then we said we'd close the factory. Then Ford worked out they couldn't replace it for 2.5 years. So we ended up effectively getting Ford to find someone to buy the business off us for a premium. Because Ford hadn't understood then, and what I've realised since is collaboration is more important than competition. If you are working with your suppliers and your customers, you work together to achieve it. If you're constantly quibbling about who gets the most of each other, that will give someone the benefit in the short term, but no one the benefit in the long term.
I mean, we sort of touched on it before we come on camera. I mean, this industry, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but there are people out there that will rip the eyeballs out and they'll come back for the sockets. And when we got into this industry, probably about 10 years ago now, and I sort of floated the idea and said, listen, I think there's a real business model here to tell the truth on day one and just tell people what the problems are. And I says, we lose job, not as much now because we have that social footprint. We've got like the reviews, we've got the people you can speak to, but for a long time we would lose jobs to other firms because someone's leading with, well, it's $5,000 plus that and all your problems are going to go away. And we're like, no, this is a £60,000 problem. And it's very easy to understand why a client would go, you know what? Well, you're telling me it's 60 grand, but these guys are telling me it's £5,000, and and having that, I think we had to get comfortable that sometimes we're going to lose jobs, but we're going to sleep at night.
Absolutely. So you can always make more money in the short term at the expense of the long term. There's always the opportunity to do the kind of things you're describing, of pricing at a low price, offering a low quality service, all the things, and you'll make more money probably in the short term. But you will get found out, and ultimately you're either in business for the long term or the short term. For my clients, I always try and explain to them, right, you're building something here for a period of time. Actually your customers, your suppliers, you're in a relationship with them. If what you're constantly trying to do is finding every penny you can out of them, it will come round and bite you. At some point, you need to be working with them, not against them. And you're right. It takes faith and it takes confidence. It takes understanding these things take time. Your patience is a much underrated quality in business.
You've got to hang in there, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you do. You just have to hang in there. I sort of say to my clients, if you're doing the right things every day in the right way, the results will come. They may not come as quickly as you would like. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to change something because it hasn't happened yet. If it's the right plan and the right strategy, sometimes the answer is just give it time.
I think it's very hard for people when they're on social media and you've got, I mean, I'll call bullshit on it. A lot of people, they will post this fucking incredible life and this incredible business and it's like, and then you'll get there and you'll feel a little bit despondent thinking, fucking hell, I'm still trudging, I'm still, I'm just grinding the gears here. And it's not sexy, is it? It's not about those things that, I mean, I've had clients where I remember we supported a lady who was a TikToker
Oh, yeah.
And she went viral overnight and it killed her business. We had to put her through a process because she just couldn't cope with that sudden increase in sales. You know, the operations couldn't catch up. But it's a long process, this, isn't it? Business is a long process and people will remember you.
Yes.
Especially when something goes wrong. I've always found out, you know, when something does go wrong and it goes wrong, like that's business. It's like, what do you do when the shit hits the fan, you know? It's... And you must have seen a lot of that, certainly being in this industry that I'm in.
Absolutely. It definitely is a long game. You know, I've been fractional finance director for a good number of years now, and it took me time to build reputation, network, and all of these things. But now I've built it, the phone rings. You know, and it rings almost randomly, but it's not. It's the combination of a large period of time. And you're right, you can fool yourself that the number of likes on LinkedIn or these kind of things somehow leads to that. It isn't. You know, the classic is they talk about marketing. You don't need to appeal to everybody. No. You need to appeal to a few people properly. I don't need everyone in the whole of Northwest, every venture capital firm and every medium-sized business to decide to hire me as a fractional FD, because frankly, that's a lot of businesses. Yeah. I need half a dozen, a dozen. I don't need every venture capitalist to be referring work to me. I need 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. That's what it's really about. You know, it's an understanding that things take time. Relationships take time. And I heard a quote, I think is it 5,000 hours to become an acquaintance and 50,000 hours to become a close friend?
But you know what? I mean, I challenge, because I found, I mean, I've been in business for myself probably since I was 25, I'm 43 now. And what I found is I can probably count, maybe on 2 hands, in all that time, people who I trust in business.
Oh, yeah.
Because so many people are full of shit. And they feel like they have to... They just don't do what they say they're going to do. And I sort of have, you know, with builders and tradesmen, and you're like, fucking how do you get work? You said you're going to be here this day, and you're not going to be in, and you don't answer the phone. And I don't think it takes a lot to stand out.
Yeah, true. Well, I think that massively depends on the sector. And I think it massively depends how long you're prepared to allow good quality reputation to do so, because it takes longer.
Yeah.
It's easier to stand out quickly with a gimmick. It's harder to stand out for quality and consistency, because that takes time. Because the proof of consistency is that it does take time. You know, and it's about having that patience and that faith that if you're doing the right things, the results will come. And you're right on people in the industry, and you know, generally in the business world, everyone's doing well. You know, I network a lot, and if I ask around, everyone's doing great. They're absolutely most work they've ever had. And then you see them at like networking event after networking event after networking event. It's like, well, how are you doing all of this then?
So networking, right? How do you find that? What's your take on networking in 2025? You know, what is it you do? Why do you enjoy it? You know, does it work for you?
Yeah, so networking, there's a few things that I think are important. So it's, are you in the right room? And understanding the room you need to be in. Does your room have either your customers in it or people who work with your customers? Mm-hmm. Now, I've been in a lot of networking groups where actually the people that are in there and the people that they know, the businesses are too small. Mm-hmm. They don't need someone at my level. And I've found some networking groups now where the people in there are dealing with customers on my side. So it's are you in the right room? If you're in the right room, then the next thing is, can you explain who you are and what you do? You know,
and why are you good at it?
And why are you good at it? Three simple questions. What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? And why are you the best at it? Mm-hmm. Can you answer those 3 questions succinctly? If you can, you'll probably be able to leave a good impression. Then the final one is activity generates results. Don't necessarily worry too much about, if you go to enough networking and speak to enough people, build enough relationships, life will work out.
Do you not think they're a bit like forced fun? This is my forced friendship sort of thing. It's like, I've always had that thing where I'm really sceptical of people. I don't know what's gone on in my life, right? But, you know, and And I tell you what, when I go, I'm really bad, mate. I feel so awkward. Like I went to a really good one in London, and it was full of like, and I've got work from these people before. They sort of like help people get ready for sales and raise. But obviously, if something goes wrong, they need an insolvency guy. And I go there. And I think, right, it'll be different this time. And I go, and I just sit, I'm thinking, oh, fuck. I just feel so self-conscious. And I ended up I went all the way to London and sat on my own for 2.5 hours. And I just thought, I'm fucking kicking myself again.
Yeah, I mean, forced fun.
Forced friendships. I don't know. I'm probably wrong, but that's how I feel sometimes.
I get your point, and there definitely is an element of that. I think I was at the first networking group I was in. Looking back, this is probably like 7, 8 years ago. It took me a while to understand that what I needed to do was leave that room with 2 or 3 people, not 20. And the reality is, I have left that room with 2 or 3 people. There's 3 people in the group of say 20 I was in, first group I joined, that I'm really close with now. That regularly we refer work to each other.
So that's a success story,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
But there's 17 who I probably won't speak to again.
You see, my whole idea for these conversations is, because I get a lot of offers for, can I take you for a coffee? Can I go for a bit of dinner? And the truth is that it's so hard to actually give people time. But when I find someone interesting, I thought, well, I'll interview them. Then we've got an hour, and at the end of it, you're like, absolutely. I like that person. You know, maybe we'll talk again. Maybe, and it just seems a so much better use of everyone's time, because you get a load of content, I get some content. Hopefully people will enjoy what we're talking about.
So yeah, I mean, I absolutely applaud what you do. I think one of the other things I've learned about marketing, business development, particularly for someone like myself who's self-employed and a kind of business like yours, is activity generates results. Being out there and doing things and trying to be different is definitely a good way to do it. Just trawling around the same set of networking groups, and we know the kind of groups we're talking about, that everybody else is trawling around, that all your competitors are in as well, doesn't really help you. You know, you're just doing what everybody else is doing. Yeah, do something different. Try some things. You know, I've done video content. I did not podcasts, but I did like online interviews when I first started. I've done loads and loads of different things, but the reason I'm here, try some things, do some things. The more people that have heard of you, the better off you are. It's interesting. So I've got people that refer to me. What I've also started to establish is I'm getting to a point where a lot of people have heard of me, which is very important as well. Because if someone says, oh, you know, I'm looking for an FD, there's someone who'll say, speak to Jason. Then when that person asks around, has anybody heard of, even more people go, yeah, I know him.
That's what you want someone to say, something nice when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
You know, that isn't that the holy grail. It's like, you know.
Absolutely. It's, you know, Stephen Bartley, you've got the diary of the CEO there. He talks about there being sort of 5 buckets that you need to succeed in life, which were, now I'm going to struggle to remember these, aren't I? I shouldn't have started with this one.
We can edit this out, Jason, don't worry.
The 5 are sort of experience and knowledge, which by the time you reach a certain stage in life, you should have. Then it's resources, you know, enough time to pay for marketing, pay for an office, whatever it might be. Then it's network, then it's reputation. Well, my stage of life is all about network and reputation. If I keep building a strong network and I keep doing good work and delivering good reputation, the work will come.
Well, I found it comes out of really odd places. Like, I remember someone I forgot speaking to this person, because I'll go, where have you found me? He's gone, oh, well, you really helped Liz.
Yeah.
Liz? And I've probably given her half an hour. There's no job there, but I've given her a little bit of time and spanned that web.
I had a phone call earlier, LinkedIn yesterday, phone call today, a recruitment consultant I've known over, you know, been chatting to on and off, but not well. I know the guy, but wouldn't say he was in my sort of top 20 contacts or anything like that. He's introduced me to someone, but not only introduced me, it turns out he's been asked by a VC he wants to get in with to find a fractional FD. Well, I want to get in with that VC as well.
Okay.
But it's completely random. You know, I sat down with one of these sales gurus who said, where's your work come from? And you sort of go through and go, well, that was a referral from another client, that came from a VC, that came from this person, that came from here. You know, it comes from all over the place. The one thing I have learned is only once have I got work that wasn't referral, wasn't recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
Someone did find me on the internet once, but it happened once. You know, I'm not spending too much time worrying about that.
We sort of like our business model is we will spend maybe £20,000 a month on paid ads.
Yeah.
We will, our Trustpilot produces an incredible amount of our leads. We've got this standard referral network, accountant, solicitor, etc., etc. And the rest is all organic. It's like people will have seen us on LinkedIn, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And it's like we found that whenever we spend more, we get more organic leads naturally. And like trying to give a good experience. The best thing I say to everyone is like give someone half an hour of your time. Even if there's no job there, give them half an hour of your time and leave them with a decent impression.
Absolutely. It's amazing often if you do a favour, you get one back. Guy used to work with a FMCG business set up on his own doing Amazon consulting.
Okay.
So I was chatting to him earlier because I might want him to help with one of my clients. And I was saying, you're with the VCs, would you like me to introduce you to blah, 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 blah. He said, yes, why have you been so? I said, well, you help. And if you help, it comes round. What goes around comes around. It just does. He said, yeah, funny that. He said, I've got a couple of clients I might want to introduce you to. And it's like, okay, not normally quite that fast.
Yeah.
But it does. If you put out there and you go out with an attitude of helping people, it comes back. It's one of those sort of revelatory moments in life, isn't it? Because it's not what you're told to do.
No.
You're told to look out for yourself, you know, look after number one. And actually, the second you stop worrying so much about looking after number one and start just generally helping
Service,
people.
Isn't it? It's serving. What can I give you?
It comes back. You know, people have a good view of you, people are happy, people refer you, and you make progress in life.
But do you not think that, we were touching on it before, like that's a basic thing that I understand and you understand today? I think they're the little things that really set you apart from everyone out there that, like in my industry, it's the minute they talk to someone, it's like, well, I want some fees, I want an engagement letter signing, I'm not doing anything else until I've got a bit of comfort.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you're a disruptor. You know, what you're doing is different in your industry. Yep. So you're right. You will content, podcasts, stuff like that will get you out there because you're approaching this in a different way. Mm-hmm. So you're approaching it in a way of trying to offer help and advice rather than thinking that there might be something at the end of it in terms of insolvency for you. That will shake up the marketplace. Most of your competitors, I guess, have been doing this for, well, probably since I was in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. That's probably when they started getting into insolvency, would be my guess. And they'll be set in their ways. It's a great opportunity for you, and you're absolutely right. Helping people always works. You know, my competitors are probably things like the FD Centre or the CFO Centre. Mm-hmm. They're a great organisation, but they are, by their nature, far more rigid in terms of what they can do.
Can we get into what you're doing as well now? Because let's sort of back to your three questions, really.
Yes.
So if you could take the lead with them.
So three simple questions. Okay, so what problem do I solve? So the main problem I solve is that fast-growing businesses don't have the information they need to make good decisions. So how do I solve that? I help them get the systems, procedures and policies in place so they've got good MI and they understand what is happening in their organisation. Mm-hmm. And then they can make good decisions. If I explain this easily, most entrepreneurs know what they're doing. They're bright, they're motivated, they're clever. They probably get 8 decisions out of 10 right. But the difference between 8 out of 10 right and 9 out of 10 right is huge. Having quality MI and a quality FD is that one extra decision right out of 10. Mm-hmm. Making one less mistake, seizing one more opportunity. And it is that, and that's the world apart. Businesses that get 8 out of 10 right as opposed to 9 out of 10 is a big difference. Why am I good at it? Well, we've sort of touched on this. I've been doing this a long time. You know, I reckon I've worked with nearly 100 businesses. I've been around, I've understood it, and I've walked the walk. You know, I've done the insolvency, the hard battlegrounds there. I did the big ticket with Phones for You, and I've been doing this quite a long time now. So that's why I'm able to do this, and I'm old, and I've got experience, and never underestimate that.
So there will be people listening here, and they'll be going, well, I've got an accountant, been told to get a bookkeeper, this chap's talking about a fractional FD. What do they all do?
Yeah.
So plain English, Jason.
Plain English, what do they all do?
What's the difference between all of them?
Okay, so this is always an interesting one. I often get, doesn't my accountant do that?
It's always the accountant's
Doesn't my accountant
fault.
I've got an accountant, does he not do that? And I always said, right, what do you pay your accountant to do?
250 quid a month.
250 quid a month, 500 quid a month, 1,000 a month, whatever. Right, so you pay him to do your VAT return, your tax return, and your annual accounts.
He's keeping them out of jail, isn't he?
Yeah, you're paying him to do compliance. Is he doing all those things? Yes. Are you paying him to advise on the trading, commerciality? Well, no. Well, he's not doing it then, is he? You know, and you could pay him to do that, but actually what he is a specialist at, increasing with the way that accounts world has gone, is they build sausage factories.
They don't want to do the advisory stuff, do they?
My accountant, great guy, personal friend of mine, Mike, he's building a sausage factory outsourced to South Africa, and it's all automated and process and procedure, and he wants to do VAT returns, annual returns. He doesn't really want to do corporate advisory. Yeah, and that's what he's good at. Brilliant, he's got a great business. But that's what your accountants do, principally. Then your bookkeeper, what's your bookkeeper? So the next thing that you need to do in a business is keep the machine turning. So someone needs to put all the invoices on a list, so you pay all your suppliers. Someone needs to put all your employees on a list, so you pay all your employees. Someone needs to put all your sales on a list, so they all pay you. Someone needs to turn the machine. The machine doesn't turn, it stops. That's, broadly speaking, your bookkeeper. They are turning the machine, making sure that everybody gets paid and everybody pays. Fine.
That's like the basic, very basic finance function, isn't it?
Correct.
Accountant, bookkeeper. Accountant keeps you out of jail. Bookkeeper hopefully will tell you whether you're making money or not.
I suppose you can run like that for quite a while, yeah? But eventually a point comes where you're busy, because as an individual, you sort of know how you're doing. Yeah, when you first started this business, you probably had a handful of clients, 5 or 6 clients. You probably knew what your billings were in your head.
I used to go, well, we're making about that, it's costing about that, got some money in the bank, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Embarrassingly, that is how I used to roll.
It's sufficiently simple, you could do it in your head. Okay, right. I sometimes describe this as being a bit like a juggler. Every time you put a bit more money in, it's like lobbing another ball in. Well, when you had one ball, you weren't going to drop the damn thing, were you? You're all right with 2. You're a bit skillful. You might be able to, numeric, do 3. Eventually, the point comes where you can't do that. You can't keep it in your head. It's too complicated. Too many customers, too many different products, too many different operations, too many different sites, whatever it might be. You lose track of what's happening. Then your bookkeeper is turning the machine, and your accountant's doing the compliance. You then get into what I like to call the Andre Previn, Eric Morecambe situation, which is all the right numbers, just not necessarily in the right account or the right month. So every number is in there, every invoice is on there. But if they don't match up, so the sales don't match to the purchases in the correct month, in the correct code, you've got no idea what's going on. So you'll see your sales are doing this and your profit is doing something completely different. Well, they should broadly go in line, and they don't. Well, why not? Well, that's because that invoice is in there and that one's in there. No one's doing that. That's where you start to need someone like a management accountant to actually be looking, going, no, you need to match that to that, do this accrual, do this prepayment, you need to account for stock, whatever it is you need to do. Right, now your numbers make sense. I can help with that, or I'll outsource that to people I know. Right, once your numbers make sense, you've now got some decisions. So, new client I'm working with currently, again in the FMCG business, he's got 4 operations. He said to me, I've got a real problem with my margin declining. I analysed his numbers and I effectively managed to break it down and put his labour against his sales, his materials against his sales, and go through it all and go, right, hold it here. Your labour's gone up 1%. Pretty sure that's a bit of NI and a pay rise. Yes. Okay, right. Your materials have gone up 3%. Well, I know what industry you're in. I've just been on ChatGPT, which I have to say I love. The average price increase from raw materials in the industry in the previous 2 years has been 3%. Your price has gone up 3%. Okay, have you increased your own prices? No. Well, that's why your margins come down 2.5%. Like, oh, so it isn't, so what do I need to do? Well, then you can start making decisions, having a meaningful conversation with him. How can he improve his profitability? We're looking at product mix, we're looking at price increases, we're looking at what else he might do. But it's understanding it like that to say, right, here's what's really happening, not necessarily what you think it is. That's what I do. That's the things I help them with. The other things I'll help with is getting people funding, getting them funding ready, selling businesses. I also help, similar to what you do, I'll sometimes get involved when businesses are struggling and need cash flow management skills. Mm-hmm. And that's broadly what I do. You can make it sound very, very complicated, and some people do, but it's not at the heart of core. Most things aren't.
Again, back to us, we'll have different types of people in insolvency, but there's a lot of them that will sit across the boardroom table to a director and just spout the Insolvency Act. And it'll scare that director. I'm like, listen, they don't need to know that. They need to know what that means to them and their business. And again, that is how you stand out. If you can keep it, the days of using really long words to confuse people and acronyms, I just think people are better. You can see through the bullshit now.
Absolutely. Directors need good advice. What's the impact on the business? What's the impact on them personally? Where are they on directors' loans? Where are they on PGs? If they go too far, what are the personal risks they're taking in trading that business? Mm-hmm. And then what is the risk to the business? And they need to understand those things. And a lot of people don't. They really, really don't get it. The difference between personal and corporate liability, a lot of people struggle with.
Well, you've hit the two now. The two biggest problems. What I've seen is 2020, the world went. The UK was bonkers. There was a wave to ride. There was a real opportunity. Yeah. So people went out. They didn't have the information you've just. They didn't have a Jason sat there going, "Is that a good idea?" They took PG loans that at the time when things were great, okay, the business could pay it. Yeah. What happened in 23? Well, the country's a different place, and these people are stuck with these onerous PG loans, and it's because they didn't have someone like you going, is that a good idea?
Yeah, well, started this year, I turned up to 2 newish clients within a month to discover they were both borrowing money off Ayahuasca. Which
ouch.
Ouch. And I said, what do you do? Well, we need the money. It's like, we've got to have another answer than this one. And look, Ayahuasca, again, a great business model. Mm-hmm. But they've gone from personal loans to business loans. Mm-hmm. But no, they're not really. Because what they're actually doing is they're PG'd.
And they've probably got a decent amount of equity in their house to get it.
So effectively they're using the credit check for the PG to do a business loan at a high interest rate, relying on the fact they don't care about the business. The business can have the world's worst credit score. They care about the individual's credit score. Mm-hmm. And I've looked at that and went, I can see how you're struggling. Can't make payroll, whatever else. I'll just press the button. In the same way as I can see how people are struggling to pay their rent. Press the button on Ayahuasca, Wonga, whoever else on a personal basis. Yeah. When you're seeing directors doing that, you start thinking, wow, okay.
And the cause it's a business debt, and they're now making it a personal debt, aren't they?
Yes, and but they think, great, I found some funding for my business. It's not really funding for their business. They may as well just put the money in themselves.
And I think when you get into that stage, that is the stage to go, you know what, right? Because without somebody like you there going, who's not emotionally attached, it's so easy to go, well, I've got people who work for me who are relying on me. I've put years into this business. It's going to get better. A lot of it's on how am I feeling? Yes. Am I hopeful?
Yes.
And it's not always like that.
Not to talk insolvency jargon, but the sunshine test. Which is one of the key tests in insolvency. Will the clouds roll away and sunshine return? Which is the one about should you keep trading? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's having a good view on that. Have you got some sensible forecasts? How achievable is this? Are you actually going to see a way out of this? One of the things I do very early on. So the first thing I do when I drive a business problem is work out its cash flow.
Well, I'm going to come on to that. Okay, tell us about your cash's reality test.
Yeah, but we talked before we met about doing insolvency in the early 90s and it being the Wild West, and it was. When I was at Anderson's, they wrote something called the Distressed Company Consulting Guide in the mid-90s to try to make some sense of it all. A lot of time working on it as part of the team. And the first question was always cash. Question one, if a business is struggling, frankly, one of the questions I ask very, very early on when I have a new client is, where are you on cash? Have you got enough cash for the next month to 3 months? Because if you haven't, that's all that matters. Fix that problem first, because if you don't fix that problem, you won't get time fixing the other problems. So that is the key thing. Businesses, it's a bit like, why do people die? Well, it's lack of oxygen to the brain. Businesses die because of lack of cash. It's not the real reason, but it's the thing that kills them. So job one is always understand short-term cash, and if needs be, fix it. 12-week rolling cash flow forecast, if it requires it, is kind of step one of all of those kind of situations. And if that's what it needs, that's the first thing you have to do. And there's usually more headroom than you think. There's normally things you can do. HMRC is normally a good first step if they've not already done it.
Yeah.
You know, and it is about buying time, doing deals with creditors.
But people are so uncomfortable with that, aren't they? They don't realise that. I mean, I probably get shot saying, listen, if you do a time to pay with HMRC, it's relatively cheap money, isn't it? It's like, you know, it's going to give you that.
Absolutely, it's the first thing you try is a time to pay with HMRC. You know what I mean? The only thing you need to watch on them, the one that's caught me on this once, is if you're thinking of doing another funding round, and that funder will be using a debt repayment over EBITDA covenant. When they assess the lending, they will take into account the HMRC time to pay. So you might not want to go that way if you're simultaneously going to try and get funding for the business.
Okay.
So you need to, or you might want to do a shorter one, so it's gone quicker.
Before you keep, right, okay.
There is a slight wrinkle on it that caught me out a few years ago that I've now learned to go, right, I need to be, you know, because it seems easy. Oh, we'll just do that and put it over X years. It might stop one of your moves a bit further down the line if you're not careful.
Okay, interesting point.
Particularly with the funding from the British Bank for growth funding, that's one of their covenants.
So this is the new one that come in a few months ago, is it?
Correct. It's one of their covenants. So you just have to be a little careful about
Is it harder to get funding at the moment? What's your take in? I mean, this is going to go out in December 2025. What's happening out there?
It's not that hard. There definitely is funding out there for decent businesses. You know, so the Northwest's FW Capital have got the main chunk of the British Bank funding. That's relatively straightforward to get a good decision on. There definitely is funding out there for commercial institutions. There definitely is VC money out there. What I am seeing is it's harder and it takes longer. So I'm definitely seeing people requiring more due diligence than I've ever seen before. And due diligence, I mean, one of my clients, 2 of the directors bought out the 3rd director. The headroom in this deal was just bonkers. You know, the deal was 6 months ago. They're now at the point where they could fully repay the debt if they wanted to. It was that kind of headroom deal. I'm then getting told I need an independent review from a firm of external accountants to approve the loan. I was looking at it thinking, why? Everyone is a lot more cautious. It takes longer, but money is being lent.
So what makes a business not be investable?
What makes a business not be investable?
What are the red flags?
So the forecasts are the important thing, and having them well understood, put together. So a lot of reasons I'm speaking to the lenders, deals don't happen, is they can't rely on the financial information. They give it a push and it falls over. The second that happens, they just
lost confidence
and then they're gone. Now, obviously, that doesn't, fortunately, tend to happen to me, because
that's a benefit of having somebody that you're in there.
But I know from speaking to a lot of people apply and fail because they lose investor confidence because their forecasts and their management accounts and their statutory accounts, they don't all tie up. They're not all telling the same story. That's one. After that, it is all around, have they got enough income to repay the debt in a believable set of scenarios? And then the final one tends to be management. Do the investors like management? And it's very different between secured stroke, standard lending in venture capital and private equity, that's a completely different conversation. So what I just talked about applies to the former, not the latter. The latter, what people don't understand around, or the most common misperception I have is I go to nice businesses, the pretty girls out there who say, oh, we've got loads of VC firms interested in us. Like, right. Do you know how many deals each VC or private equity firm does a year? No. It's half a dozen, on average, to a dozen, depends on size. It's not very many.
What are they looking for then, VC firms?
So they are looking for very rapid growth. So they're looking for a business that's going to kind of do 2, 4, 6, 8. That's what they would ideally like in a sector where they can see A, quick growth, and B, an easy exit.
And that easy exit would be a sale or refinance? What's
yeah, well, that they can work out who would buy it or how they would refinance, what the exit would look like from the start. Those are the two things. The way they work, very simply speaking, is do 3 deals, 1 loses,
That's
one
what we're
washes its
gonna ask,
face,
yeah.
1 makes a load of money.
Right.
So they've got to have the opportunity to make a load of money. So they want one that might do 2, 4, 8, 16. They're not interested in 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5 particularly. They want the opportunities for the exponential growth.
So you've got like businesses there that like are all about that, like I'm going to be 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah.
And then you've got people that going, I really don't want to do that. I want to be steady. Is there any guidance you can get, talk to a director and go to find out where they want to be? Or, because a lot of people feel like you should be growing, you should be, kicking it out the park,
It's very early on, I remember, because I always used to think like that. And then I had a conversation with someone, good number of years ago, said, no, there's nothing wrong with having a business that pays you £500,000 a year for the next 10 years.
That's a good business.
Yeah. Actually, why do you want to sell it? Why are you trying to grow it to get this size? I've also got a good friend of mine, a guy called Dominic Baldwin, who that's what he does. So he will sit with a director and talk to them about personally, or a business owner personally, what do they want? What do they want from life? Yeah. Where do they want to get to? And then go back to the business and see how they achieve that. Yeah, because if you want a yacht, well, you better go for that exponential growth.
Yeah.
If what you want to do is, I don't know, have a villa in York that you go to twice a year, you need a different thing. If your kids are all grown up and have been through university, you're in situation 1. If you've got 3 young kids, you want to put them through university and educate them, you're in situation 2. What do you want personally? And that is an important component of owner-manager business decisions. You shouldn't, what do they want to achieve? What is their risk appetite? Because it's got a big factor to what they should be doing with their business, how they should be looking to do it. How many chances do they want to take?
Because, you must have seen this with founders who go for that. There is a price to going down that route, isn't there, of exponential growth with a big, because even bringing VCs in, as in, it's not without problems, is it? It's like a total different dynamic change, and there's got to be the stress that founder puts themselves going down that route.
Yeah, you've got to want it.
Are they aware? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so you're right. If you're going for exponential growth, it is very stressful, and there'll be lots and lots of bumps in the road. And if you bring a VC in, that will require a fair level of rigour and organisation and reporting and a whole host of other things and challenge. If you've brought a VC in, the business isn't completely your own anymore. You can't just do what you want in the way that you could before you brought a VC in. And that's fine. That often is a good thing, but not always. And you're right. It's what do they want personally? And you've got to really want it to go for these exponential growth things, because it is very hard work and very difficult. And some people do and some people don't. I tend to find my directors fall into one of 2 camps. There's some that I'm almost trying to hold back because they're so big on what I call shiny toy syndrome. It's like, can we do what you said you were going to do rather than all these other great ideas you've got? Because we're not doing the first one yet.
Yeah.
And then there's the second bunch, and I had a conversation with one of these the other day, where it's like, look, you've got all this money in the bank. Please don't just leave it in the business account. Yeah. Either you need to spend it on, I don't know, marketing, business growth, You staff whatever it is and try and grow the business, or you don't, in which case you need to start moving it out of the business into yourself as a dividend. But actually just sort of building up this cash fund isn't the answer. So I get both sides. I get cautious directors who are almost too cautious. Then I get ones who are, if I left them to their own devices, they would be trying to conquer Russia this winter.
What do you say to someone who's cautious? Like, because I've been, I don't know if it's the PTSD of working in this industry for so long.
Yeah.
But I have personally been really cautious. I'm like, it scares me too much growth. And growth has just happened as a byproduct of doing the right thing. But, you know, I've had so many directors who had really good businesses and they just fucking, they just grew and grew and grew and then something changed. I've always got that fear of something changing, you know, if I can keep it really, really tight, plenty of reserves, you know, we can ride any waves.
It's having plenty of reserves, but understanding what plenty of reserves mean. So, you know, that is a conversation about the balance sheet. So I had a conversation with one of my customers the other day, and great business, it's not far from here. And I went through his balance sheet and said, look, you need to understand this, okay? Here's the amount of cash you've got in the bank. Here's the debtors. Okay? We'll knock off your creditors. Here's what you're left with. Okay. Here's what, if you had no sales, you would spend every month. Okay. That means, effectively, if the tap turned off tomorrow and you had no sales coming in the door, you wouldn't run out of money for 6 months if you'd let everyone sat on their hands for the entire period. I think you've probably got enough reserves. And it's understanding it in those kind of simple terms. You know, how long a burn rate have you got if it went wrong? Well, actually, if you've got a burn rate of months and months and months and months, because it's not going to happen, you're never suddenly going to get no sales. Well, okay. He says that and then remembers 2020, but, you know, one-off.
Generally speaking, aside from like, black world events.
Absolutely. That's very unlikely to happen in that way. And if it does, well, you've got bigger problems if that 2020 you have bigger problems than the fact that you look at that and go, right, actually you've got enough reserves. But it's having those conversations. And some like us, I think I give them the confidence to do that because I sit down and go, right, just so we understand, you're okay. You can take these chances. You know, usually those aren't going to do anything radical anyway. But they do need to just spend a bit more for the future in a controlled way.
So sort of like just some personal coaching then, you know, I'm sat here, don't really know what to do next. We've had certain ideas floated to us. We could grow, we could do this, we could do that. And I just sometimes get a little bit lost with it all and go, you know, I actually don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I'm 43 years old and it's like, you know, I don't think I want all that stress, you know, that you see these champion business people get. I really don't think that would be too much of a price for someone like me. I need to keep grounded. I need to do my other things in life. But I really struggle with thinking about the future, you know. It's like, I don't know what it is with me. I just try and come to work and do my best that day. And
there's an awful lot to be said for just continuing to do the next right thing, and the future will take care of itself. And there is. You know, if you turn up every day, do good work, a bit like, it sounds like you found this yourself, you have ended up getting organic growth and getting to a point. And absolutely, and there's an element for that. There's also an element for, on a regular basis, just taking a step back. Right. What do we want? What do we want to achieve in the next 12 months? You know, I'm a big believer in that annual strategizing session, like getting away for half a day and going, okay, what's next? And then you just work through ideas. Then pick a few, try a few. Don't do everything.
That's important, isn't it? Just keep doing what you're good at.
Absolutely. Fundamentally, keep doing what you're good at. Turn up every day and do well, and you'll end up with a decent business. But you're talking about, you have lots of ideas, what should you do them, or which ones should you do? Just get away, sit down for a day, go through them all.
I have a list of ideas, and I look and I put them on a list, and I know not one of those ideas is going to blow the roof off. Therefore, I don't want to implement it unless it's like a real, like I know that this is going to really move the needle. I think for us, it's doing more of what we do. It's being able to improve the lead quality that comes in, and actually bringing the team on to a standard where they can sort of take a little bit of the pressure off me.
The other, yeah, it's interesting. The other way I sometimes look at this is I play a bit of chess. So what I like to do is, personally, is put myself in a position where I look at the next move. Is it a sensible move? But will it keep the board open for me? Because you never know what's going to happen. Yep. So things that could happen in what I do. There's businesses currently talking about offering me equity in their business to be their FD and be more involved. That's one opportunity that I've got to change the game as regards how I do personally. There's people like yourself out there. At some point, some might, the smaller VCs, the smaller PE firms, one of those might just say, tell you what, Jason, we'd quite like you in-house rather than out-house. When I look at the things I'm doing currently, what I do is do the right things to not close the board.
I like that. Yeah. That's what are your goals then? You know that they're talking about 12 months. What are the next 12 months?
So I'm in a reasonably comfortable position. Quite happy with my life. I'm not a extravagant man. My first grandkid's due next Saturday. I'd quite like to slowly wind down over the next decade, and then have enough money for a kind of comfortable retirement. You know, I think I've had a hell of a life, done lots and lots of things. I'm not necessarily desperately looking for that next story. I haven't got that desperate desire that I need to achieve this or that. I've achieved a lot over the years. I quite like helping people. I quite like to see some of the younger businesses I've got succeed. It'd be nice to see one of them really succeed. And I've got 2 or 3 that could happen with. It'd be nice.
What does that look like? What does success, when you say see them succeed, what does that look like?
I've got 2 or 3 businesses where the owners are sub 35. I could see them becoming multi-millionaires. You know, I could see them doing an exit within the next 3 to 5 years for 10 million quid plus, and effectively being set up for life, whatever they want to do next. It'd be nice to see a couple of those come off.
You know, when people do that, have you met people that have done that whole exit thing, enough money in the bank for whatever? How do they cope? How does a founder who exits for that type of money, like fuck you money, I don't have to work again, could you, without going into who they are, how does that pan out for people?
So what happens after they've done that, generally speaking, is one of 2 things. Usually they take a bit of a break and do something. A friend of mine's been in this situation. He rode the Tour de France circuit before this, called the Prix de Tour de France.
Okay.
So he spent a year effectively training and did that, and that was his kind of year thing. So a lot of people do that, have a bit of time. Then they sort of realise that they're actually only 40, 35, 36, and you know,
it's a long life, hopefully.
Then what happens is they either set up a new business, because, back to my 5 buckets, they've got all of those things, and network and reputation, and when they come to set up their second business, it's a damn sight easier than setting up their first one. And they find someone has a conversation and they say, oh yeah, okay, I'll do that with you, and they set up another business, they have another run at it. Sometimes they succeed the second time, sometimes they fail. Or the other thing they do is they almost become an angel investor, and they're invested in 6, 7, 8 other businesses, and you know, are sort of part angel investor, part non-exec. Those are the 2 things I tend to see people have succeeded relatively early on in life doing in the subsequent round, because I bump into them as angel investors and as non-execs to the people that I know, and that's what they're doing now. They kind of work part-time. They've got 100 grand, 200 grand in this business, that business, another business, board meetings, advice, introductions. You know, but everyone's different. There's all sorts of routes, but those are the 2 main ones that I tend to see.
Do you think you'll ever get to the point where you don't do anything?
I think my girlfriend would probably really sick of me. It's the honest answer to that. So today I'm in great health and I've got loads of energy.
Yeah.
So today I can't see that ever happening. I can see me winding down over time and you know, working slightly less days per week, maybe do a bit more cycling, maybe a bit more, you know, go away a bit more, whatever it might be. doing nothing, having 7 days a week to fill.
I
don't
know
how I
dangerous
do
place
that.
for me, that.
Yeah.
7 days of thinking.
7 days to fill, and it'd be all right in the summer week. You get out in your garden and go cycling. Like this time of year, I look out the window and go, ooh. No, I think it'll be a long time until I won't be working to some extent. Certainly while I'm in good health and everything's good with me, I've no plans of ever doing that.
If you could say to a director, like they only get one report a month, okay, and they do one routine, okay, in business, what would be the one report that you can't live without? What would be the one routine that they should be doing?
Okay, so one report's easy. So you just need effectively a P&L versus forecast. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a good P&L, so you can understand what's happening in the business against a good forecast.
What you think is going to be happening, what you think should have been happening.
Versus what did.
Okay.
You get that one report and an FD who can explain it to you, you know what's going on and you know what you need to fix and what's working. So you can see what you've succeeded with and you can see what you failed with. Well, then you can decide what to keep going at and what to fix. So that's the one report. Mm-hmm. One routine. That's a more tricky one. So I guess the routine I found most effective is to get up and spend an hour and clear away as much of the easy stuff as you can before you start the day. Mm-hmm. Just get as many emails and bits of stuff done so they're not hanging over you before the phone starts ringing.
When does the phone start ringing for you?
Phone starts ringing anywhere between, so of course, foolishly, a load of other people I work with have worked out that I now start about 7:30. So before you know it, the phone starts ringing at 8, whereas it used to start ringing at 9. But that's my own fault for probably about 7:30 the phone starts to ring. But I'd like to have done an hour before then and just cleared the decks really.
Okay. We touched on it earlier. So if there's a director here that's watching and sort of I fit myself into this, is a question for me really. So if you are torn between stability, growing a business for, a legacy business and a real push for growth, what could we do with this? How would I make the decision of what to do? What would be the fact? There's a fork in the road here. One is, we just build a really stable business that hopefully will last for years and years. And the other is you try and blow the doors off. How do I make that decision?
So it's about risk and reward. But the reality is, in my experiences, there tends to be two types of people out there, and they're either going to do one or they're going to do the other. It's very rare someone is undecided as to whether they're a risk taker or not. Mm-hmm. I think that's almost an innate characteristic within people. It is kind of, it tends to be that they have already decided that in their heart of hearts. Now, they might be asking me the question because they want to double check, but really the question they're asking me is it a good plan? Most people are either want to go for it, have got that internal, if you haven't got that internal drive, that internal hunger to try to do the more risky plan, you've answered your own question.
So you've got to go with it.
You've got to want it.
Yeah.
And if you're asking me, I'm a bit worried, you probably know the answer already, which is that even what you want to do. It's the reality of it. But you just need someone to go, you don't have to.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's been an absolute pleasure. Like I don't know how long we've gone for, but I think we could talk for hours and hours.
It's always the way.
Where can people find out more about you, Jason?
So my name's Jason Soars. Just go to LinkedIn. I always make sure I have a good LinkedIn profile that properly explains who I am and what I do. And with a name like mine, I'm easy to find. There's not half a dozen of us. So look me up there, get in touch, say hello, have a chat. I'll always have a chat with anyone. Happy to have a half an hour conversation. But yeah, LinkedIn's the easiest place to find me.
Jason, you've been a great guest.
Thank you very much for having me.
Top man.